Hey everybody, this is Riker Rider, and welcome to the finale of Let's Play The Legend of Dragoon. Now, if you guys are just interested in seeing the boss, you may want to skip towards the end of the video, because I'm going to talk about Melbu Framha a lot, since it is by far the most complicated boss fight in the game. Maybe not the hardest. He's definitely the hardest storyline boss, and that's the way it should be, because he's, well, the final boss. But if you don't want to hear me talk about the strategy on how to beat Melbu Framha for 10-15 minutes, skip towards the end of the video to be able to watch the pre-boss fight cutscene. Now let's get started. I'm going to actually start with the items instead of my normal setup of talking about characters. You'll want to have some single target healing because Melbu has several attacks that can inflict lots of damage on one party member, and you'll want to bring at least 4 Angel's Prayers and 1 Depetrifier. Melbu has some extremely dangerous attacks, and it is very easy to fall behind on the healing. Sell any unnecessary repeat items for Healing Breeze space. You will need a lot of items because Melbu has 42,000 HP split over 4 forms. Your choice of party will determine which forms of this battle are hard. No matter what your party choice, though, one particular phase of this battle will be very tough. The first phase uses exclusively magic aside from Melbu's 4 tentacles, which use physical attacks. Melbu can also petrify you during this phase of the fight, hence the 1 Depetrifier. Phase 2 has primarily magic, but it also has an attack that can absorb one of your party members and later spit him or her out at another party member, doing massive physical damage to both. Phase 3 can seal your commands like the Fort Magrad boss did, and has 2 different subforms. Watch out for its Meteor Summon during the day, as that's its strongest attack, and use area attacks on the Bomb Stars summoned during night to minimize the damage they deal. Phase 4 is generally considered the hardest part. During Phase 4, he has the most physical attacks and has an attack that can confuse your entire party. This phase also gives Melbu access to the Dragon Block staff, so don't transform into Dragoons during this phase until you're ready to finish him off. Now I'd like to provide an in-depth analysis of how useful each character is during this fight. Well, Dart you have to use, and I would recommend Soul Eater Therapy Ring without a doubt, because that's just his best weapon setup. Phoenix Plume to prevent confusion, Red Dragoon Armor to avoid fire elemental attacks, because Melbu Framha can use attacks of all elements. And if you have both of the, oh wait, no, that's the other one. If you don't have, if you're not going to be using a slower character, like Al or Kongal, you're going to want to give him Bandit's Shoes instead of the Iron Knee Piece. And, like I was saying, he absolutely needs to have Soul Eater Therapy Ring, because with a 450% Blazing Dynamo, which is what it's maxed at, it can still do a lot of damage even through Melbu's high across-the-board defenses. Also, this edition gives 150 SP per use if it's maxed, which will fill his gauge very quickly, letting him use his Dragoon form multiple times through the course of the battle. If you feel Dart needs to be tougher defensively, Dragon Helmet is an alternative to Phoenix Plume, but I find the status protection is more important for the last phase. I find that Dart is very strong in phases 1 and 3 and very weak in phase 4. But since you don't have a choice about using him, that's irrelevant. Rose should have Dragon Buster, Dragon Helmet, Dark Dragoon Armor, Dancer's Shoes, and Rainbow Earring. Dragon Buster with a max Demon's Dance at 500% is the strongest physical attack in the game, and Melbu's defense is a bit lower than his magic defense. The Dragon Helmet is to raise her HP, because she'll only have just north of 2,000 HP without it. And it also frees up her accessory slot for the Rainbow Earring, which is important to prevent status ailments. Rose's Dragoon form isn't terribly useful in this battle, even if you have the Darkness Dragon. Astral Drain just doesn't do enough, and Rose's magic just isn't high enough to even make the Darkness Dragon do that much damage. Rose is at her best in Phase 2, but she's going to have a lot of problems with Phase 3. The other two phases she's alright in, you just have to watch her HP, especially against physical attacks. One of the draws to using Rose, though, is the high speed, because with Dancer's Shoes, she does get 75 speed. Now, Hashel has, ideally, Destroyer Mace, Phoenix Plume, Violet Dragoon Armor, Bandit's Shoes, again, Iron Knee Piece if you're not using Bandit Shoes, or you have it on a different character, and a physical ring. It is important for Hashel to have a physical ring, because his defenses and his HP aren't the greatest. Omni Suite maxes at 501%, and combined with the proper use of the Destroyer Mace can inflict incredible amounts of damage, but maintaining the Danger Hashel setup is impractical at best due to the massive AoE spam Melbu tends to perform. His Dragoon form is just utterly useless, and his defenses on both ends of the spectrum aren't great. If you use him, you may want to consider leaving him vulnerable to status ailments to double up on Dragon Helmet and Physical Ring if you don't have any party members that require them. Hashel is at his weakest during the first phase, and he is at his strongest during the third. Al should have Halberd, which is his ultimate weapon, Phoenix Plume, Jade Dragoon Armor, Bandit's Shoes, Physical Ring. And this is another one of the reasons why I don't like using that many male characters in this fight, is because most of the male characters require Bandit's Shoes to work well, and most of the female characters require Physical Ring to work well. Rose Storm is a lifesaver in this battle, and it's really the only good reason to use him. Flower Storm has absolutely horrendous counterattack timing, and even with a Physical Ring, Al can have issues surviving magic attacks, especially in phases 2 and 4. Though he does have high physical attack, Flower Storm's 405% damage isn't exactly impressive. His high defense does help a lot later in the fight, where Melbu starts to use more physical attacks. He starts out fairly weak, but gets marginally better towards the end of the fight, and he's probably his most useful in Phase 4, even though he can get one-shotted by the strongest of Melbu's magic attacks during that phase. Now, you guys are going to hate on me for this, but I don't like using Maru in this fight. The setup that I would recommend would be Pretty Hammer for extra SP gain, Dragon Helmet for HP, Blue Dragon Armor, Stardust Boots to dodge magic, and Physical Ring for more HP. This is one of the characters that you just have to double up Physical Ring and Dragon Helmet, and because of that you're going to mitigate what your other characters can do defensively. Maru just doesn't have the HP to work well in this fight, and this makes her vulnerable to Melbu's status ailments. Names are so similar, I get them mixed up. Anyway, because of this, as well as the fourth phase being so physical, I don't think Maru's a great choice. Her Rainbow Breath can bail you out by giving effectively extra healing breezes, and Maru's Dragoon summons, and just her magic in general, is strong enough to be worth using, despite Melbu's massive 250 magic defense. However, it's very easy for her to die later on in the fight when Melbu starts favoring physical attacks, especially in the last form, where she can be killed even from full HP. Though Maru's Perky Step does max at 600%, her piddly attack power, even with the Basher, means she should just focus on recovering her SP with her physical attacks rather than deal damage. She starts out and stays very strong for the first 50% of the fight, is pretty good in the third form, but she just gets annihilated towards the end of the fight, and it makes her very frustrating character to use because you'll just cruise through the first 3 forms and then die repeatedly to the last one. Kongol should be using Endora's Axe, Phoenix Plume, Gold Dragoon Armor, and the combination of Bandit Shoes and Bandit's Ring. Kongol has the exact opposite problem Maru does. He just gets obliterated by magic, especially earlier in the fight. You absolutely need Bandit's Shoes and Bandit's Ring, or he simply won't get enough turns to be useful. You could use a Dragon Helmet to raise his longevity, but that opens him up to status ailments, and you do not want Kongol getting confused with that massive amount of attack strength he has. Bone Crush maxing at only 300% actually makes his Dragoon form useful for a change. And one of the reasons why this is because it is easier to get perfects with his Dragoon edition, and the attack bonus can just end up being worthwhile. The magic defense buff is also very nice for him to have, though it's highly unlikely that you'll have his Dragoon form maxed, simply because of how small his SP gains are until you get his final edition. A big draw to using Kongol is that he is the only character that performs well in the final phase, but you still need to watch out for Melbu's magic. It is still very powerful against him during that phase. Overall, he starts out weak in the fight, but he gets progressively stronger the farther you go. If you can put up with him for the first couple of forms, he will see you through to the end of the fight. Lastly, Miranda. She should have Detonate Arrow, Phoenix Plume, Silver Dragoon Armor, Stardust Boots, and a physical ring. Miranda's Detonate Arrow can be mildly useful in the first phase when you have 5 targets, though I feel it's just more efficient for her to transform into a Dragoon and clear them out with the Star Children spell. Miranda has the highest endgame magic stats out of the entire party, even higher than Maru's, making her the best user of the Psych Bomb. Her Dragoon form is a godsend, especially if you have it maxed. The White-Silver Dragon is not only the strongest summon in the game, but it also heals your party like Rose's Astral Drain does. Moonlight serves as extra Angel's Prayers, Gates of Heaven serves as the same purpose as Maru's Rainbow Breath spell, and just her Dragoon form is so useful in general. The only issue I have with it is that her Dragoon attack, like her physical Dragoon attack, does not stack with the Detonate Arrow, so you won't be able to hit multiple enemies with it. The other issue with her is keeping her alive closer to the end of the fight. Miranda has slightly more HP than Maru, but her physical defense is horrendous, even weaker than Maru's, especially since her equipment is just less efficient than Maru's. She starts out strong at the beginning of the fight, but becomes a pain in the butt to keep alive the farther you go in. Some other equipment you may want to consider is Rose's Hairband, because Maru has some instant death attacks later in the fight, Talismans for the same reason, but I find those less useful because they take up your accessory slot. The Armor of Yore gives better magic defense on the boys in return for not being immune to their element due to not using Dragoon armor. Like I said in Maru's segment, you can use the Basher if you have Perky Step Max, but I think it's better to just prioritize keeping your SP up. Now, Miranda's natural magic defense is so high that she can afford to take a hit in return for the auto-life chance that the Angel Robe provides. She's going to be one-shotted by physical attacks anyway. Personally, I don't like using this, but it's definitely a backable choice. The Magical Hat gives a significant magic boost to a character and raises their maximum MP by 50%, useful on characters where you're going to want to use dragon summons, and the Amulet doubles maximum MP. If you're going to summon dragons, equipping both of those items lets you do 3 summons before having to use a Sun Rhapsody or Moon Serenade. Mage Rings are an option for Maru or Miranda to recover MP, as they'll be doing a lot of Dragoon healing. And I think that's about it. I'm going to be using Alan Rose during this fight, because it's the most balanced party for this. If you guys want to see other parties against Melbu Framha as bonus content, I am more than willing to record this fight again with other parties. However, all these strategies assume that you have everybody's the characters you're planning on using, it assumes that you have those final editions maxed. So I'm going to make this fight look a bit harder than it's supposed to be because I don't have maxed editions, although I'm not that far off damage-wise, except on Rose, because her Demon Stance, like I said, maxes at an obscene 500%. Well, I think that'll about do it. Let's go into battle with Melbu Framha and end this. Our last battle. You do get one more chance to change your party, but you don't get a chance to change your equipment, so I don't know why they let you switch your party around. What is with the fourth wall breakage on Melbu Framha's upper left tentacle? Well, it would be our upper right, but it's his upper left. I don't know if this is just another glitch from the PS3, or it's actually fourth wall breakage to show just how powerful Melbu Framha is as the 108th species. I love how they all pull their weapons out like this at the end.